This episode of Bullet Heaven was made possible with a copy of the game provided by Chorus Worldwide. Ages ago, in a decade that's no longer our own, we took a look at Castle Shikigami 2 for the PlayStation 2. And we dug it quite a bit, though its Dreamcast sibling did a better job at the task. More recently, the Steam version of Shikigami 1, also known as Mobile Light Force 2 in the West, was less impressive, though a solid first effort, and better on PS2. And while we enjoyed Shiki 3, we haven't covered it just yet. The short of the long of it is, Castle Shikigami is a great series of shooting games from Alpha System who have been around for 30 years now. Why all this talk about Castle Shikigami though? Oh, just a little game called Sisters Royale. Sisters Royale, 5 Sisters Under Fire, is a Tate vertical scroll shooting game first released on the Nintendo Switch by Alpha System in June 2018 with its original subtitle, I'm being harassed by 5 sisters and it sucks. Or, more literally translated, 5 sisters are in trouble for harassment. Truth told, both are way more hilarious than the one we got. Sisters Royale would later be released in the West on Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4 by Chorus Worldwide on January 30th, 2020. A physical edition was also released on PlayStation 4 in Japan the same day. Sisters Royale happens to have quite a bit more than a passing resemblance to Shikigami as it turns out, so let's take a closer look. Gameplay-wise, anyone who has played Shikigami no Shiro in any form should be right at home. All of the core controls in the Shikigami games are intact in Sisters Royale. Players have their choice of 5 squabbling sisters to take the game on. Starting from eldest to youngest, from left to right, each has their own primary fire, summon, attacks, and bombers. While the cast isn't as large or diverse as Shikigami, Sisters Royale still has a good amount of diversity between each player character. A 6th downloadable character, Ode, is actually drawn directly from Shikigami no Shiro, an automaton modeled after and allegedly controlled by Fumiko Odette Van Steen. Or at least it sure looks like it. She is included on a DLC card with the PS4 physical release, but costs an extra $3 on Switch and the PSN digital store. Players move their characters around the Tate-style playfield by way of the left analog stick or D-pad. Movement is solid and generally gets the player where they want to be in an efficient manner that feels satisfyingly fast. In Sisters Royale, all of the sisters are terrestrial, and the player will sometimes encounter physical obstacles that they'll need to navigate around. There are also hazards like ice and wind that will impede players' movements or force them around the screen. When it comes to ice though, Ode has the advantage of being able to fly above it, which is a nice detail. Players fire their character's main shots with the A button on the Switch and the circle button on PlayStation 4. Regular fire is blue, but just as with Shikigami no Shiro, if players graze up against enemy bullets, their fire will change to red with enhanced size, spread, speed, and power. This is part of something known as the tension bonus system, and players will do much more damage, especially to bosses, if they can always be grazing. And there's more. The player has access to a summon attack which behaves just like the Shikigami attacks in Shiki no Shiro. Holding the B button on the Switch controller or cross on the PlayStation 4 will engage the summons which, by the way, also behave exactly like those in Sister Royale's obvious source material. Once again, anyone who has played Shikigami no Shiro, especially the second in the series, should be right at home with exactly how these summons function. Finally, players can deploy a screen-clearing bomber by pressing the Y button on the Switch pad or the square button on PlayStation 4. Players can deploy these bombers to clear away enemy shots at a pinch or to heavily damage everything, bosses included. No surprise here. Players start with 3 bombers out of a maximum 5, but more can be obtained through score. The player has a life gauge with 3 segments that replace a typical life stock. If the player is hit, they'll spill a ton of coins all over the place, but the game will otherwise be uninterrupted. Players can get extends through high score, which can be seen building in the first empty segment of the gauge. When full, a life extend is granted. Even at full life, the final segment can be filled in this manner but does not count for an extra life point, nor will it add a 4th or beyond like Shikigami no Shiro typically would. If the final life point is totally full, the player will still drop to 2. Sisters Royale plays over the course of 5 stages, one for each sister, mirror matches included. Most stages are of moderate length, with stage 5 being extended with the final boss encounters. All in all, it's a pretty straightforward title with a decent emphasis on slapstick storytelling, but it's also much shorter than the Shikigami games from Alpha Systems past. Of course, with different stories for each character, multiple game difficulties, and the goal of a SSS score ranking for each, there's still plenty to do here. And a practice mode allows players to select a stage with their preferred sister to really nail down the best route and strategy for every stage in the game. Beyond this mechanic is a mode which... it's not released yet? Oh, okay, hold on. Okay, so there's a Maniac mode which... What? Nandato? Oh, okay, here's how this feature works. Certain features will open up dependent on various factors. For example, we unlocked bullet size by getting a 1cc on easy. We also got a double S ranking and didn't use any bombs, so that could have been a factor. Other features like gray slowdown, bullet speed, suicide bullets, and more can be unlocked, though discovering how will definitely lend to additional replay. As a Shikigami Lite, it's more than playable. Fun even, and it runs just fine, though the Switch version definitely has more slowdown than its PlayStation 4 sibling. Being able to play the game on the go is a decent concession though, and there's no real loss of fidelity between the two versions either, which, should come as no real surprise since Sisters Royale was originally made for the Switch. Of course, there's one great way to get more out of Sisters Royale, and that would be the scoring. The tension bonus system really comes into its own when playing for a high score. The closer the player is to an enemy or shot, the better their score will be in general when defeating enemies or collecting bonuses. The multiplied rate will increase to a maximum of 8 times depending on how close players get to danger, indicated by red numerals. All enemies will drop coins when defeated, which are instantly collected and increase in individual score as more are obtained, to a maximum of 10,000 points apiece. These coin values, once again, will be multiplied to a maximum of 8, which means every coin can potentially be worth 80,000 points when collected. If a player gets hit though, they'll lose a large portion of their coins, and the point values will need to be built up again. Using summon techniques can result in many more coins, which again are multiplied by the tension bonus system, allowing for just a gigantic point boost in some areas. Of course, knowing what enemy groups are where, what sort of fire they shoot, and the best strategies for bosses to keep the tension rate high is important throughout the game, which can take time and experimentation, which leads to a decent amount of replay on its own. But wait, there's more! Players will find certain points in every stage that will sparkle faintly. These points can be shot to reveal a fairy which, when collected, will grant the player a double tension bonus. Enemy kills and collected coins can be boosted all the way up to 16 times apiece with rainbow numerals, allowing for a tremendous point boost. Hard mode even adds additional chests that just spew coins all over the place, but the player's opposition will be difficult to overcome when collecting them. The end of each stage tallies up factors such as time taken to defeat the boss, the amount of coins collected, and how many 8 times multiplied actions were performed in the stage. If the player beats their previous best, a record score indicator will display. At game end, players will receive a breakdown of their game and given a letter grade. A single credit game will obviously award a much better letter rank, as will a higher score and better mastery of the tension system. The maximum letter grade that can be applied is SSS. Sisters Royale also incorporates local, worldwide, and friend leaderboards into the mix as well. Scores for every character and difficulty can be uploaded and compared to others around the world. Perfect for players of any skill level. There is a catch though. Even if a higher score is achieved, scores with a better letter rank will be the ones uploaded and maintained. The presentation in Sisters Royale is consistent with what players should expect of Alpha System post-Shiki 2. Story, visuals, and sound are par for the course, which in this case is good, but not mind-blowing. The player characters, stages, and enemies are all modeled in a polygonal style. This game in specific was made using the Unity engine, and it runs rather well on both the Switch and PlayStation 4, with the edge going to PlayStation 4 for obvious reasons. But the Switch version still holds its own. The character and enemy designs also shine in this 3D style, with the player characters in specific sporting all kinds of detail in their adorable chibi form factors. Portraits look sharp with great design, though more expressions could really have sold the infighting these 5 sisters constantly attack each other with. The stages, by contrast, are kind of dull though, with the exception of Stage 5's serene courtyard. Then again, if the stages were too bright or busy, it could very easily detract and distract from the action. The animation, especially with the player characters, is pretty great though. On the sound front, Sisters Royale is a game that might take a lot of players by surprise. The soundtrack was definitely not what we expected, but it's pretty fresh, mostly. A couple of tracks leave a bit to be desired, but the rest is pretty excellent. The sound effects, meanwhile, are all serviceable, though some might be a little annoyed by the bonus tension effect. Not such an issue for us, but still. Then there's the story, which is, well, pretty decent actually. We often skip dialogue scenes like these, but a lot of them are actually really funny in Sisters Royale. And not even ironically, that's the best part. Even the general premise is good. Satan, an evil force that threatens the world, can only be stopped by the power of 5 magical sisters. They are finally born, but they hate each other, so they're just like, "Shit, I'm out! Peace, biatch!" But then they come together again, but not to save the world. Nah, it was just to chase some angel action, and then the fight begins. LOL indeed. 5 storylines plus an extra one through DLC makes it worth playing through all of them. The menus and interface are clean but stylish. The colors really pop in the main menu and borders. All kinds of options exist for screen rotation, controls, and we also really enjoyed the alternate interface in Tate. Nice touch. Rounding out the presentation on the PlayStation 4 in specific is a set of trophies for players to work towards, with various challenges that are sure to get players even more involved with playing the game as skillfully as possible. So, how does Sisters Royale stack up? Let's take a look. The control in Sisters Royale feels sharp and responsive in both versions. If there is input lag, we're not feeling it. The challenge may seem tame at first, but harder difficulties really ramp up. Sisters Royale is only 5 stages long, but practice modes and online leaderboards increase its replay value. The 3D engine used in Sisters Royale looks really great, but the stages are mostly a little bland. The great OST and sound effects really shine in Sisters Royale, but some might be annoyed with the tension system effect. This is absolutely just a reskinned terrestrial Shikigami no Shiro with fewer stages for 1 player. That's not terrible though, it's just not that different. For only about $15 US, Sisters Royale offers an excellent amount of quality shooting gameplay and a surprisingly good story for its price. Sisters Royale was probably worth the wait and definitely worth the purchase on PlayStation 4. New versions are forthcoming from strictly limited games as of this writing as well, which promise all content on the game card or disc depending on the version. They are much more expensive than the digital versions though, but they have good shelf presence. But the digital price is definitely still right, and Sisters Royale gets a 4 out of 5. You can get Sisters Royale on PlayStation 4 or Switch for about $15 US. Links below. More Dojin and indie shmups are inbound, and we've got the goods. Get ready for Rolling Gunner Overpower in episode 260 of Bullet Heaven. Then it's time for Project Starship in episode 261.
Be sure to like, comment, and of course, subscribe. We finally got a copy of Hyperduel for the Sega Saturn, and we'll be reviewing it once we hit 10,000 subscribers.